Over the past 4 months, airlines have had to battle several industry headwinds, many of which have forced those carriers to reconsider their operational strategies in many markets. However, it has recently begun to look a lot more promising for airlines, many of which will soon be in a position to capitalize on improving economic conditions. At least at the time of making this video, the introduction of trade deals has helped reduce the collapse in the value of the United States dollar and restore consumer confidence in the market, both of which are good signs for airlines. Obviously, that's always subject to change and seems to fluctuate from week to week. But the biggest test for airlines is fast approaching. Throughout all of their rhetoric over the past few weeks, carriers like Delta Airlines have noted that premium demand in leisure travel markets could be the most important piece of airlines' ability to maintain profitable operations. With the summer travel season approaching, a period during which leisure travel demand is typically at its highest, airlines will be in the spotlight. This summer is more important for commercial airlines than previous summers. It's pretty much a given that the peak northern summer travel period is one of the most important times when it comes to profitability. This is especially the case for carriers focused primarily on serving leisure travel markets, such as low-cost carriers. This period was and continues to be essential to nail down by capturing as much revenue as possible. However, in the years following the pandemic, airlines have been forced to rely even more heavily on leisure travel during the summer months to keep them in the black. Business travel dynamics have changed dramatically in the years following the pandemic, and airline premium cabins, where the majority of revenue is generated, are now filled with more high-end leisure travelers than ever before. Filling up business cabins during the summer months with high-spending leisure-oriented travelers is, at the end of the day, essential for carriers like Delta and United. This year, airlines have been put in a tricky financial position due to the continued fluctuations of the market, forcing them to make cutbacks to their route schedules and project poorer earnings in many of their key markets. However, many have been able to make more optimistic projections about the next 6 months by leaning heavily on their premium leisure travel performance, according to Airways magazine. As a result, all eyes will be on how legacy carriers perform in these markets during the summer months. Despite the appearance that the economy could be coming out of its slump, there are a few major challenges that the industry might still have to grapple with. Generally, there are 2 different kinds of airlines currently operating in the US market: full-service network airlines and low-cost carriers. Each of these could soon face its own set of operational challenges. For starters, the challenges with America's aging operational infrastructure, especially its air traffic control infrastructure, have only continued to become more prevalent. Highlighted by radar screens going black and a lack of air traffic controllers wreaking havoc on Newark Liberty International Airport over the last few weeks, airlines will need to be prepared for more of these kinds of operational challenges, especially as airports grow more congested during the peak summer travel months. Increased economic volatility is also a major thing airlines need to be worried about. Airlines often make decisions about route launches months in advance, meaning that they are put in a difficult position when rapid changes in consumer sentiment arise. This forces carriers into a difficult position where they have to operate potentially unprofitable routes. This has become a major issue this year given the lack of consistency and forewarning in the current US administration's decision-making. For starters, full-service network carriers like United Airlines and Delta Airlines make their money in 2 different places. There are high-volume business travelers and high-spending leisure travelers. These form the core of the passenger base that typically find themselves seated in a United or Delta premium cabin. These are the passengers that generate the vast majority of a legacy carrier's revenue. However, some issues could affect the amount of demand in both of these sectors. With fears about a recession still looming, businesses are hesitant to make investments, meaning that fewer deals are being signed, fewer consultants are being hired, and fewer attorneys are being sent across the country to read through contracts. For these reasons, carriers are right to fear that business travel demand could be somewhat weak when compared to previous years. High-spending leisure travelers could also buy legacy airline tickets in lower numbers than airlines might be predicting. Growth in premium cabins has very much buoyed airlines over the past 4 months, but it's unclear if this growth can continue. Fears that inflation could soon rise may lead many to avoid spending extra for a slightly more comfortable experience on airlines like American or United. Budget airlines, as many industry analysts have been quick to point out, could be in an even more brutal position. Carriers that compete exclusively on the basis of price, like Spirit and Frontier, are likely in a difficult spot. The low-income segment of travellers, which forms the backbone of their customer base, is likely in trouble, given economic uncertainty and inflationary fears which have incentivized Americans away from booking vacations. The airlines that target a broader segment of the consumer market, such as Alaska Airlines or JetBlue, could be in a somewhat better position as they have a larger group of customers to try to appeal to. This shift may be one of the principal reasons behind Southwest Airlines' decision to alter its operating strategy. While carriers across the industry are undoubtedly facing some headwinds these days, there are a few things which they do have going for them. The most notable of these, however, has to be the fact that fuel prices remain low. Jet fuel is every single airline's largest individual expense, regardless of what operating model they may choose to follow. Fuel prices, which are broadly seen to be out of any airline's control, are among the most important pieces of any carrier's cost basis. If the cost of jet fuel increases dramatically, there are few things that an airline can do. Some carriers have invested in fuel hedging programs, although the success of such initiatives has varied. Airlines currently enjoy low fuel prices, meaning that the cost of filling their jets remains fairly low in comparison to previous years. As a result, airlines are somewhat helped in their attempts to weather this current economic storm by manageable energy expenses. At the end of the day, carriers are in a tricky position due to the greater state of the macro economy, but that doesn't mean that they don't have plans for how to address the challenges that could come their way this summer. US legacy airlines are still very cautious about how demand in the transatlantic market will respond to a weaker US dollar, according to Skift. For example, carriers have been quick to cut capacity on many key routes across the Atlantic. Furthermore, low-cost carriers are very much in a do-or-die moment, as they'll be tested by heavy competition from legacy carriers and broad economic uncertainty. Legacy airlines, however, may be able to ride premium travel demand to maintain profitability amid economic difficulties. We'll simply have to wait and see what happens to legacy carriers in these key markets. Despite difficult sets of economic circumstances, airlines do maintain some confidence as to their ability to turn profits amid uncertainty. How do you think US airlines will fare this summer? Let us know by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.